Welcome to Operation Successful Transition. In this podcast, my guests and I will be talking about the 4 pillars of housing, work, benefits, and mental health to open doors for veterans and connect you with the people you need to meet. We deeply appreciate your service and sacrifice and hope to help make your transition back to civilian life smoother. Your success is important. You are important. Howdy, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Operation Successful Transition. I'm your host, Sherry Eccles, and today I'm super excited to announce my guest, Jacob Fuller. Jacob is a fairly old friend. We've known each other for a couple of years now. He's a Marine Corps veteran and a recent Texas A&M graduate, and he has started a small woodworking business. Jacob's also a client and a friend. I've seen Jacob and his wife, Frances, buy a house, get married, graduate, and they recently had a bouncing baby boy. He's the cutest thing. Congratulations on all those things, and thank you so much for coming today. How are you doing?
You. I'm doing good.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about your business and what inspired you to get started in that.
So I have a pretty small woodworking business at this moment. I mostly do, cutting boards for like real estate agents, smaller projects. What inspired me, I guess, so when I got out of the military, I was kind of bored, I was used to, going, and then all of a sudden I had all this free time. And my dad, he got sick back in probably around 2007, 2008. He was in Vietnam and was exposed to Agent Orange, and then eventually it made him sick. So he lost his job and he started doing woodworking just to keep himself busy. And so I kind of started helping him do, with that, and kind of stuck with me. And then while I was in, a buddy of mine, he was getting out and asked if I could make it was a cedar chest, but he wanted like a shadow box, like
Okay.
incorporated into the lid.
Gotcha.
So I made that while I was in, trying to, it took me a long time because I was gearing up for a deployment. So
Right.
I was constantly gone, but it took a while, but it kind of like sparked the bug in me again to do woodworking, and like to carry on what my dad had started. So once I got out, like I said, I had all that free time. So I kind of started doing some little things here, some pins and some stuff around the house. And then just kind of like, I don't want to make a business out of this and see what I can turn it into.
Yeah, nice. Well, I know that you spent a lot of time doing a lot of things to your house, improving the lot around it and inside, and it's looking really beautiful. You've come a long way on that house. And
Yeah.
my dad also did carpentry as a hobby while I was growing up. So my mom and I would sand things down and stain them, and I'd hold the other end of the board for him. So I know that feeling of doing something like that with your dad and kind of bringing it back. I've done woodworking in my adult life too, because of the introduction that my parents gave it to me, kind of a touch point that we have. And that's a sweet story. So I'm glad you're able to do that. And I've seen your products too. They're beautiful. Jacob does beautiful work, guys. And tell them the name of your business.
It's 538 Woodworks.
Yeah. And so you have a website or Facebook page. How do you
Yeah. So we do have a website, and we have a store. We primarily sell through Etsy. But on our website, there's a link that says store, and it takes you straight to our Etsy page. And then we're also on Facebook at 538 Woodworks and Instagram on 538 Woodworks. We recently got on TikTok, but I don't really post anything on there yet.
yeah.
It's a lot to keep up with all the different platforms.
Yeah. So if you guys are looking for things that are just beautiful wooden gift items, something that's unusual and different, look up 538 Woodworks, because I've seen Jacob's work and it is beautiful. Um, so hopefully your son will start doing some woodwork with you when he gets big enough too. That would be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun. But I'm not gonna
Yeah.
push him into it. Like I want him to, develop his own identity and everything, and
Yeah.
but if he wants to help me, that'll be awesome. I'd love that.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. So tell us a little bit about your transition from the busy military life into having all this time. You've touched on that a little bit, so I'd like to explore it a little bit more. How did your transition go, and how did you make the best of it?
It was okay. Like it could have been better, but it could have been worse. I think what made it real difficult was so like you're supposed to go through like a separations class before you get out of the military. Well, I did mine and then deployed instead of like deploying and coming back and going through the separations class. And basically, like the way it happened was like I deployed, I came home, and like 3 weeks later, I was a civilian. So
Wow.
I didn't really have a chance to unwind. And coming back and like, my family didn't understand, why like I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to be around a bunch of people because you know, I just come back from a pretty stressful deployment. Like we didn't see combat or anything, but just the leadership and everything had made it pretty stressful. And so that was kind of difficult. Like just, because my family didn't understand. They'd never been through anything like that. So my friends didn't understand that, no, I don't want to go out dancing where there's 1,000 people in a room that's meant for 500 people. So
Yeah.
so yeah, it was kind of difficult just trying to get them to understand that, hey, I need some time to unwind and unpack everything. Um, and then, what also didn't help was like I also had all this free time now. Like now I was working basically an 8 to 5 job. I had weekends off. I wasn't used to any of that. But I think what helped me though was I just kept busy. As soon as I got a little bit of free time, I started a business. Once I got comfortable doing that, you know, started dating, got comfortable with, adding that in, then I decided to go back to school. And so I just kind of kept, every time I had a little bit of free time, then I would just fill that free time with something else. And, it just kept me busy.
Yeah. Well, all good things that you've added in. It's all healthy, you know. I mean, each thing could have turned out bad, but you've got a good wife, a good marriage, you've got a good business, and now you've got a degree, and you've been doing great things for yourself. Um, so so you said you started a business rather than getting a job. What was your first business when you first got out?
No, so well, I mean, I started out at a job,
Okay.
and then I mean, I basically started that job as soon as I got out. And then I started I became a partner with one of my older brothers, and we started a food truck business, working that on the weekends, going to different shows and everything. Um, and then after a while, like, it didn't make sense for me to be part of that business anymore. So I sold my half back to him and then took that profit and reinvested it into the woodworking business.
Uh-huh.
We use that. Well, actually, we use that money to start to build the house or to buy the house we're in now. And then saved up money and then reinvested that a into the woodworking business.
Yeah. Certain amount of equipment and some marketing budget, I guess, too. So I've talked to several people that get out and they're in fairly high positions in the military, and then they get out and they have trouble finding a job that I guess they feel is worthy of them. I don't know. How did you luck into getting a job right away that you were happy with?
So much the same, I got out as a sergeant, and which is an NCO, midway up through the enlisted ranks, and comes with some leadership. Uh, and then I got out and started at the bottom at the company I was working at, and to this day, it's still kind of, you know, it's just a job, and it has no like it doesn't mean the same as being in the military. Like I miss that sense of service. There's quite a few times that I've almost just quit and like decided to go be a police officer or a firefighter or something, just something to give back to the community. Um, that's a constant struggle, especially with my background. My little brother, two of my older brothers, and both my parents. are all in law enforcement or were in law enforcement at one time. Most of them
You-
still are.
You've got a
Uh,
whole family of civil servants.
yes, and like now, like my nephews are one's a firefighter, one's a cop. I have a niece that's a nurse, so like it kind of runs in our family that everyone does something that's services the community.
Yeah.
So it's it's still a constant struggle, but I have some issues with my back, so I kind of looked at it as like I might be a liability if something happened if I went into one of those fields again. uh you know so I kind of just put that to the side.
Well, that's a bummer. I mean, surely there's some way you could, some aspect you could get into. Um, yeah, I think it, I mean, I'm from the outside looking in, of course, because I'm not a veteran, but I mean, I had a long career and then I restarted doing real estate, right? So I was at the very beginning of that. And then I think it's kind of I don't know if it's a hit to your pride or what exactly it is. Starting out at square one again, it just feels like a little bit of a frustration to be like, I invested all those years and got to a certain level of achievement. And now here they've put me down at the bottom again, starting out when I get out. But I think that's common anytime you change careers. You're going to start out at some place, and then it's up to you and your drive and your performance to, advance through the ranks in the civilian life as well. It's just kind of
Yeah,
a struggle. And I think I've talked to, anyway, several people that have had just kind of mental issue with starting over again. I think that maybe that's what you call it, starting over. Um,
yeah, and it's kind of what's kept me where I'm at. Like I still work for the same company, and now I'm a supervisor again. So I've rose up and through the ranks again, and it's gonna keep me there. Like I'm tired of starting over, so I'll probably be there till I retire, um, unless this woodworking business really takes over. But I'm kind of saving the woodworking business for like a good retirement job.
yeah.
Um, uh,
Well, they
but yeah,
say when you start a small business, start it in your spare time, and then when it gets big enough, then you can quit your full time thing. I wonder too about have you ever thought of doing like volunteer work in the community? That might be a way that you could give back that you wouldn't be a liability, but you could be an asset.
I have, but the problem is I keep adding more and more stuff to my plate, and right now I don't have
Yeah,
any time for anything else.
right.
Um,
Yeah, we have that in common. I don't have spare time. If I have time, I'm going to use it for some advance, use it for something. I've got enough items on my to-do list that it's going to be filled up. So I totally understand where you're at with that. Okay, so I usually like to end on with a couple of questions.
okay.
My first question is, if you had one really great piece of advice that you were going to give somebody who is about to transition, what would that best piece of advice be?
Um, I would say, find something to keep yourself busy. Keep your mind off of things. Um, don't let don't let alcohol be the one thing, to keep you busy, because that's just going to bring you down. And I think it's important to like look at your military service and see what works, what you what was good, and you know use those skill sets to propel yourself into the civilian world. But also understand there's a lot of stuff that the military teaches you that's not good and doesn't translate well. I've had a lot of veterans work for me, since I got out, or worked alongside them. Some have been great, and some of them have been terrible. And I think a lot of veterans let the term veteran like define themselves, and like they let that be their whole identity and it doesn't always translate to the civilian world. Like most civilians, yeah, they thank you for your service, but they don't really care what you've done in the past. They care about what you do, what you can do for them today. And so that's always, strive to do the best you can today. A lot of civilians can't relate to your stories and everything. Like other veterans can, but civilians can't. And so constantly bringing up a story from your military service, they just they can't relate, so they won't understand. And most of the time, all they care about is what you can do for them today. So that's what, just try to be the best person you can and bring the best skill set you can for today.
I think that's good advice for anybody. I mean, everyone has a past, and some are good, like serving in the military, some are not good. Holding on to that, moving forward, there's the analogies. I like, that's why the rear view mirror is so small and the windshield's so big. You want to look forward.
Yeah. And it's not even, transferring from the military to civilian, like transferring from one job to another. What can you bring that person today or that employer?
Yeah.
You got to keep pushing forward.
I have a coach who says, if you help enough people get what they want, then you can get what you want. It's a result of giving that you receive. So my next question is about your business. If you had an ask for your business, what would that be? How could we help you? How could we help your business? How could we bless your business?
I think just getting the word out. I mean, the woodworking business is kind of created at the moment, like everywhere you look, especially like when the pandemic happened, everyone had a bunch of free time. So sorry, my dogs are going crazy.
It's totally, I'm a dog lover too. Mine's at my feet here. She just hasn't heard anything worthy of barking at yet.
But yeah, with the pandemic and everything, everyone had a bunch of free time. So everyone started woodworking, it seemed like, and there's a lot of people still doing it. So it kind of saturated the market. But so just trying to find a way to stand out and, get the word out is probably the biggest ask.
Yeah. So maybe all the other people doing the woodwork are not veterans. If you're into using veteran owned businesses, here's one right here. This would be a great one. And at the end of the video, we're going to put up a contact card that'll have Jacob's website and the way to get a hold of him to place an order. So you'll be able to connect with him and order all the products. So I'm super excited. These are great, like, gift items. And besides, for realtors, the pens, and you do coasters and things for the hard to buy for person, something that's handcrafted. There's a lot of stuff that's made in China these days, and having something that's handcrafted has a little bit more meaning behind it. So I think it'd be a nice gift item. All right. Well, is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you'd like to share with everybody?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
Just keep pushing forward.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming. Again, it's so good to see your face. I miss you guys, and I'm glad you're doing so well. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. Hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you for tuning in. We're excited about helping ease your transition. If you're needing help or answers, please reach out. I would love to find an expert who can answer the questions in a future episode, or I can connect you with someone for more immediate help. We're here to serve you for a change. Don't be shy. My contact information is right here for you to use.